Now let's talk about graph. Now graph is actually how a function looks how a function looks visually. So graph is actually how a function looks visually. So you don't need to complicate things for yourself. Now when we're talking about a graph, it's not normally how the function looks when you're looking at it visually, maybe in a representation, in a sheet, you understand? So now let's talk about graph. So now there are different kinds of graph, you understand me? Now firstly, let's talk about when y is equals to what? X, for instance. Now when y is equals to x, this is linear. This is what? A linear graph. Why? Why is it a linear graph? That's the question you ask yourself. Now, it's a linear graph because the power of our x here is actually 1. You understand me? So the power of the x is 1. That is why this is going to form what? A linear graph. So whenever you see a graph, the graph have what? Two phases. Now, this is a graph. Now, let's plot a graph. Now, when you see something like this place is called what? The O, which is what? The origin. You understand me? It's called what? The origin. So now, in the graph, we have what we call the x-axis and also what? The y-axis. So this part of it is called what? The x-axis. You understand me? Why the other part is called what? The y-axis. So now, these are the two axes you see in a graph, the x and the what? Y axis. Now, if for instance, the graph I have here, which is y, is equals to x. Now, when I have values for this, I can say if my x is equals to 1 and my y is also equals to 1, then my x is going to be equals to 2. My y is also going to be equals to what? 2. Because I'm using a linear graph. So anything that this is supposed to be the other one. You understand me? So if my x is 1, y is supposed to be 1. So now let's say you want to plot this on a particular graph. Now, if you look at this graph, the graph have both the right hand side and the left hand side. Now, this right hand side of this part is called what? The positive part of it. So you label here 1 and you label here 2 continuously like that. You understand? Why this is what? The negative part. You say negative 1, you say negative 2, so on and so forth. You understand? Why this part below is also what? The negative part of the y-axis. So this is what? Minus 1. This is what? Minus 2. Is that understood? Now, why this is what? The positive part. So this is 1 and this is what? 2. So if I decide to plot this particular graph where I say my x is 1 and my y is 1, I'm going to be picking it like this. Now, if my x is what? 1 and my y is 1. Now, these points that they meet, now they are meeting at this point. So I'm going to be what? Dotting these points that they meet. You understand me? Now, if I say my x is also 2 and my y is 2, I'll still trace it down to where they meet, which is here. Now, if I draw this graph, it is going to be what? A plane graph, which is what? A linear graph, like the way I have already explained it for you. So now, this is what? Talking about a linear graph. So let's talk about another kind of graph. So let's go. Now let's talk about a quadratic graph. A quadratic graph. Now, if we have a quadratic graph, it's going to be in this format. Now look at it. We're going to be having our y to be equals to what? Our what? X square. You can see it. Our y is going to be equals to what? Our x square. So if x is actually 4, then my y is going to be 2. You understand me? Then if my x is equals to what? 1, my y here can also be equals to what? 1. Yeah. Now, if you look at what I have here, the relationship here is that y is 2. So 2 square is going to give me what is actually here. You understand me? So now, this is talking about a quadratic graph. So let's try to plot out this graph and see how it looks. So now, this is a graph. This is my origin, right? I have this part, which is what? My 1, and this is what? 2, then this is what? My 3. Then I have what? This part, which is the negative part, negative 1. I have negative 2, and I have negative 3. Is that understood? I have this part, which is what? My negative 1, I have my negative 2, and I have what? My negative 3. Is that right? Yeah. So now, I also have what? Now, I also have what? This other part, which is what? My positive part. So, which is what? 1, which is 2, and then 3. So now, let's say I'm asked to plot this graph. So firstly, I start with what? My x is 1 and my y is 1. If I do something like that, where they're actually going to meet is going to be what? This particular point. If the both of them are what? 1. Do you understand me? Now, let's talk about, let's say my x is what? 4 and my y is what? 2. So let's see that. So now, this is what the x axis, you understand me? And this is what the y axis. So since I'm talking about x being 4, so my x need to actually get to this length, which is what? 4. You understand me? So now I'll just plot something like this. Then my y is what? 2. So they will meet at this particular point. You understand me? You understand me? Now, the same thing applies. Let me say I have my y to be equals to what? Minus 2. If I have my y to be equals to minus 2, then my x is going to be equals to what? 4. Now I'm giving an additional point, you understand me? So now let's say my y is equals to what? Minus 2. So now let me look for my minus 2 here, which is what? This particular place. And I said what? My y is going to be what? Minus 2, which is what? This particular aspect. This is the aspect of y, which is minus 2. And I said my x should be what? 4. It simply means that this is going to what? Come to this particular face. So this graph is going to be what? Meeting at this particular point. You understand me? So now when you see a graph like this, when you try to join all the points together, you actually see it meet fight form a what? A curve. So now I'm just giving a rough graph. This is just rough. But what I'm trying to explain to you is that a quadratic graph is what? Curve in shape. Now, whenever you see that the power is what? Square, which is 2, it means that it is going to be what? Curve in shape. Whenever you see this, it is going to be what? Straight in shape. So those are the two main kinds of graph that we're going to talk about in today's lesson, which is the linear and what? The curve graph. So I believe now you understand how a graph look. And I said a graph is what? How a function look exactly visually. So that's that for a graph. And I believe this video was helpful. If it was helpful, don't forget to give me a like and share this video to your friends, and also subscribe to this channel for more tips like this, where I'm going to be dropping full tutorials on everything you need to know on MTH 101, which is calculus and integral mathematics. That's calculus mathematics. I'm going to be dropping every update you need step by step. So we're going to be having 20 series in this video playlist, where we're going to be giving it one after the other. So now this is the second part. You're going to be seeing the third part very soon. So see you in the next one. And this is Maths Cruze. See you in the next one. Bye.